world of self-help in and of itself is somehow, not with the right intention, but it's kind of become, because it's coming from the country where it comes from, is very strong on rugged individuals, sense of individuality. It's the Western concept. It's an American philosophy, right? So what is further perpetuating is a sense of separatedness and loneliness in some shapes or forms. And the social media platform further accelerates it. And then what we do, personal development industry somehow creates more programs. Hey, you're feeling stressed or depressed? Here's a program to fix that. Oh, you're feeling obese? Here's a program to lose weight. What we're doing unconsciously is we are cutting ourselves and inventing band-aids without looking at the root cause, which is a sense of loneliness.
Welcome back to another episode of the Being Yourself show, where world-renowned thought leaders and best-selling authors share their wisdom and insight. If you're new to this channel, then do consider subscribing for your regular dose of wisdom and motivation. I'm your host, Ajay Mathur, and my guest today is an entrepreneur and a globally sought-after speaker. His TEDx speech has been viewed over 7 million times. He has also been a CEO and founder of Life Plugin, which is a platform to build tribe of the self-help and personal development enthusiasts. He has previously worked as a head of product marketing in Mindvalley, the man who is on a mission to build a Disneyland for personal development, Gautam Khetrapal. Welcome, Gautam, to the show.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'm excited for this conversation.
Thank you. So first of all, let's start with your story. You have been an engineer, and then you came into personal development. What exactly, how did you transform yourself?
Okay, well, it wasn't, the saying, hindsight is 2020. So looking back, I can say, yeah, everything made sense. But when I went to my university in engineering, and I think part of it I shared in the TEDx talk that you were referring to, the first one, it just, something didn't gel, something didn't connect, and and I was feeling out of place, the place where I was. It wasn't. I felt like I don't belong here. This is not the stuff that I want to do long term. La la la. A lot of people feel that. Millions of them. As part of my research 7 years ago, I realized. But at the time, I grew up in a middle class family, so I said, okay, what can I do? Right? I still need to get a job. Still need to build my life. So I have to build my CV, and I'm clearly not going to do it with my engineering stuff. It wasn't speaking to me. So I started enrolling in different, extracurricular activities and different spaces here and there. So they look good on my CV. That was my intention. And I just stumbled upon it. This is 2008, 14 years ago. I stumbled upon the world's largest youth-run organization that, aims to develop youth leadership. And youth leadership, when we talk about leadership, personal leadership, and we'll speak about that a bit later, maybe, it's basically you're looking at leadership through the lens of personal development, right? So how can I grow my mindset? How can I become an effective communicator, effective leader? How do I manage other people's emotions really well? How do I understand psychology of different people, different needs and wants of people that are around me of the same age at the time? So this is what took me in a direction of understanding all of these things, understanding psychology, understanding human behavior, understanding how to communicate better, and understanding, experiencing the kind of results that it can offer, not just professionally in the external world, but more importantly in the internal world. And that was the opening for me, where I said, oh, there's something there, and I want to follow this curiosity a little bit more, right? So for me, I was following the traditional path, but how I got to personal development was from a very personal need. Let's say, they say we teach best what we needed to learn the most, right? Richard Bach, the author of Illusion, said that in that book. And for me, this was it. Right? For me, I think I joke about this. I was so self-destructive that I had to make it part of my job to take care of myself. Literally, like I look younger now than I did 10 years ago. It's the same story, not just with my health, with my emotional well-being, the kind of stuff that I do. My first full-time job was like $100 a month. Growing up in a middle-class family, I could barely speak a sentence in front of 3 people, right? And today I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm actually very public in sharing the messages that I'm doing. So all of those things, if I can backtrack, it started from a very personal need. How do I grow my mind? How do I grow my body? How can I grow my relationships? How can I improve my emotional well-being, my sense of self-esteem? And the more I worked on my, can say, my internal reality, the more my external reality started to shift. And there came a point where I was at the right place at the right time. And this is where my mind becomes, okay, how do I explain it? Can't explain it. Must be spiritual, must be divine intervention.
Mm.
It felt like I was doing the things that I'm doing and I was teaching them, and it was being received with a lot of, admiration, love, and, I was seeing that it actually can help other people. Right. And then all of a sudden in 2017, I got a platform to speak on TEDx about how can you make learning a lifelong adventure, so to speak. Right. And so all of those things just kept on piling on each other. And I kept on being asked to share this first personally, first with my social environment, then a little bit professionally. Then I started mentoring some people. And then before I knew it, I already had a thing running, which I now call a business. Right. So it happened very, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what speaks to me. Okay. What's the next step can I take? Right. And I was just thinking, this is what speaks to me, and what's the next logical step I can take in that direction. Right. And I was just grand vision. That's what I want to dedicate my life towards. And what's the next step? And for most part, for first 6, 7 years, the next step was personal, inwards, working on myself internally. And after a while, this is what happens. This is a slight digress, but this is an interesting perspective. Every time we learn something, every time we attend a seminar, every time we read an inspiring book, there's a strong tendency to share it with everyone we love.
Mm.
Right? Hey, you got to check this out. This guy is amazing. This book is life changing. And anyone who's done that has done that with very little success. The reason is, and every parent knows this, your children don't do what you tell them to do. They do what you do.
You're doing.
Right. So that's the premise. So I realized once first 5, 6 years, I also went into, hey, check this out, check that out. Nobody was paying attention. Least of it, my family, right? The one that I wanted to give the most to. And then after 6, 7 years, there's some external proof started to show up in my life.
Mm.
Like 3 years ago, I got into the best shape of my life ever. I created like a 6-pack abs challenge with my whole life plugin tribe in India. First time ever, I got into 6-pack ab shape. Right? And then some proofs in relationships, some proofs in mental, emotional well-being, some proofs in career or financial success. And as these proofs started to show up, the people that I actually wanted to pass on that wisdom, I wanted to apply that wisdom, they start coming up to you and say, hey, what changed? Can you tell me? And when that question happens, that happens because they see the proof. Right? And when they say that, they start pulling information out of you rather than you wanting to give it to them. So I think somehow very early, I realized that, hey, the best way to bring this wisdom out to the world, or to the world to me, is I'm only doing this so that I can elevate my friends. I can count them on maybe 2 hands, and my family. The rest is just bonus. This is why it started. My business also started because I wanted to have a good time with my friends, and I want to elevate together. That's my intention, right? So the more I got engaged with this idea, the more I realized, hey, the best way I can do that is by being the proof of every single thing that I want to teach.
Mm.
And that became the first principle for even the teachers that we'll select. The teachers that we select, they're not amazing speakers. Well, that's a different skill. And you spoke with Eric Edmeades, right? So it's a skill that can be developed, right? But it's not about the skill, how poetically you can express certain things. But are you the proof of the thing that you talk about? Because then people want to steal that, pull it out of you.
Mm.
That became the premise. And my family's health started to improve. My family's emotional well-being started to improve. Their relationships started to improve. Same thing started to happen in my friend circle. And that to me was like the biggest gift. And that was also the point where, I actually jumped ship full time, committing to, okay, I'm gonna make it a business. Right. And let's see how far we can take this. And so that's where we are.
It's really beautiful. And you remember the Steve Jobs speech in Stanford, and he was talking about you can only connect the dots looking backward. And you sometime you don't realize where the future lies, but if you just keep taking consistent action, that's what you did. So yeah, we are in a different place today. And I can connect with your story so much because in the last 5 years, I have seen so much of transformation in myself. including the health and everything. Lost a lot of weight and doing a lot of other things, but that'll be for a separate session. You mentioned about your TEDx speech. This you did in 2017, 18, is that correct?
I did one in 2017, one in 2019.
Right. So the first one, the 2017 one, where you talk about education, is that correct?
Mhm.
So how did you, I mean, there are a lot of people who are into public speaking who are my audience. So I just wanted to know, how did you land that opportunity to speak at TED stage? What were your, I don't know, what was your CV for a TED?
That's a funny answer, actually. I was working. I was in one of the senior leaders in Mind Valley, and very close to Vishen, the founder.
Mm-hmm.
And Vishen actually got invited to speak on that stage, and he couldn't go, so he recommended me to go.
I see. Okay.
So that's how that happened, right? And then how it blew up and all of those things. That's a completely other random story. I wasn't expecting it. Like for me, it was like that is one talk that I expected it to perform the least out there, because there were lots of mess ups, and like, I'm not even happy with how the emotional state I was in the beginning. But I guess that's the one that gets viewed the most. So, but Vishen recommended me to go, and then yeah, that's how I ended up being there. And then from there, I, once you have something out there in the world for people to see, and then you start getting more invites, right? Because that's a snowballing effect. And a lot of some of my coaching clients, when I would encourage them to, when they are trying to build their own speaking career or teaching career, right? It's not about like getting a 7 million views talk straight away, right? Because it's also a practice. I had been doing speaking on stage for 9 years before that, not as great. First 5 years were must be really like shameful that I had to remove some of that stuff, right? But each time I do it, each time you do it, each time you express a message, each time you show up, you get slightly better. Right? Each time you show up anywhere, you slightly get better. That's a gym, right? Fitness gym, mental gym, spiritual gym, right? Or a speaking gym, right? So it was 9 years after that I did where some of the result, you can say, in the external world showed up, right? So one of the things I talk about to my coaching clients, if they're saying, hey, I want to build a speaking career, right, is to, okay, how many talks have you given, right? Set a goal, like you're giving a talk once a week or once every 2 weeks. Pick a spot. If you can't find anything, go to Toastmasters, right? Fine. If you can't find even that, just commit to doing one Instagram live, even if you have 5 viewers. I've done Instagram lives in my early stage when there were 5 viewers, right? So that's one aspect of it, where you develop consistency, keep on showing up over and over again, and sometime along the path it clicks, right? It's the same thing that you spoke about. Looking back, you can make sense of it, but going forward, it doesn't. So if you want to go into TEDx career or TEDx stage, the better question to ask is, okay, why, right? And the why would be much bigger than TEDx. TEDx would be one milestone, right? So keep an eye on the why, and then think about, okay, what's the next thing I can do to get one step closer towards it? TEDx will be somewhere along the way. That's the philosophical way of looking at it. And then you can actually actively reach out to TEDx. You can look up TEDx events around you. They're happening all the time in every city around you. Look them up, and then you actually write to the organizer. They had the organizer's email, right? This is something I didn't know. I only got to know after the first TEDx. But this is something where people teach. If you just want to close a TEDx talk invite, you can. Easy. If you write to 10, you'll find one. If you've had some social proof before, you'll easily find one or two opportunities. So
Okay.
hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. And when you said that it became so popular by accident, I don't think so. I think it was very authentic talk. I did listen to it. Um, I have watched it a long time ago, and then I watched it yesterday again before I was interviewing you. There was a lot of authenticity in it, and there was a humor in it. So there
Mhm.
were all building blocks of being a popular TEDx speech, really. Well,
Yeah, I wasn't being humble. Now, okay, now I tell you the story. I was very proud of the talk when I went on stage, because TEDx, they make you plan everything, right? You have to be 18 minutes. Within that minute, you cannot go beyond, right? So they say come a day before and you run us through the talk, and the running through, like, it barely happens to me in my life, even to this day. I was inspired. I was so inspired about the message that I wanted to bring out. So that was all true. The reason why I was not happy about that talk is because I gave them my slides, right? And it's an 18-minute presentation. I'm nowhere close to as polished as a speaker that I am now, right? So this was like first big stage of my life. And it was like an 8 feet high stage, HD cameras around, spotlights on your face. The minister of the state is in the front row. So really one of the best universities in Malaysia. And there's a round of applause. And I go and stand on that red dot. And there's two screens on the floor. One goes like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and starts counting down from 18 minutes, very specific. And the other one is supposed to show your slides.
Nice.
Right? So this one goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and this one is blank. I'm on stage of my biggest stage of my life at the time. I'm super excited. So the first 5 seconds, I'm like, oh no. They're gonna put it back. They're gonna play it back on. Right? And it goes 70, 55, 54, 53. And I realized in my heart, while the time was running out, very crucial seconds, that they've lost my slides and they don't have it. And I was so angry. And I have this footage, so not angry, so heartbroken. I have this footage in the raw file, which they edited out, right? Okay. I put the clicker on the floor. I wanted to say a F you to something. I said, all right, we're going to do this presentation without the slides. I'd lost like around 30, 45 seconds, which is a huge chunk if you're prepared for a talk to finish in 18 minutes, right? And then, so I was screaming. I was not like the way I wanted it to deliver. I was not that. And then I was making extra jokes because the pressure of performance went away, right? And I was rushing things forward. And so that's how I started my talk. I said, okay, screw this. Just going to do this thing, do my best. And then in my audience, my girlfriend at the time and one of my really close friends who's with me in Barcelona, a Russian girl, they were in the audience. They ran to the tech table, right? And there's like two little Malaysian dudes with their glasses sitting, and they're saying, okay, what do you need? Where are the slides? I have no idea this is happening. Huh? This is my Russian woman friend saying, hey, put the slides back on. And the guy's like, ma'am, we don't have the slides. She said, okay, here's my computer. She was also working in Mindvalley at the time. The slides are in this, transfer them to your computer and play them. She said, ma'am, we can't transfer it. And she said, okay, then take this computer, connect it, take your wire out to connect it to your computer. She's fighting it, right? And the other guy reasonably said, ma'am, you cannot take out the main TEDx computer and just connect it with a random laptop. Fair request, right? To that, my Russian friend said, yes, you can. Pushed the little Asian dude off his chair, sat in his chair, connected a laptop. This is 9 minutes in the presentation. Now, the next time you watch the video, you'll see slides changing behind.
9 minutes?
Yeah.
And you were already talking?
I was talking for 9 minutes.
Okay.
And in the beginning, my talk was just story, so I could go on with it, but just end I had to show the framework, which is the thing that I was most proud of. So by the time all of a sudden I see 9, 10 minutes in, the slides are flickering. I said, oh, the slides are coming back up. I turn around and I see, oh, the slides are coming. It says Mindvalley Marketing 2018. These are the wrong freaking slides. So it's all happening live. And it took her like 2-3 seconds to change the slides and then help me change the slides on my cue. And that's how I ended up the talk.
Oh, and did you finish in 18 minutes or they kind of stretched it?
I did. And
you know what? I didn't realize it at all until you've told me this story. I'm glad.
Yeah, but internally I knew, right? And I know how I speak. I know when I'm speaking a bit louder, a bit faster. So and then I just sent it I was so embarrassed. I just sent it as a thank you to Vishen. I didn't even want to promote it. I didn't even put it on my Facebook at that time. And then Vishen really liked it. And he said, hey, we want to publish it on Mindvalley channel. And so they published it, got like a few 100,000 views. And then someone stole it from Mindvalley's channel, Indian channel, uploaded on their channel, got about 6 million views. Then it started happening in different places. Right. And before I knew it, it was just, my Facebook was blocked. I had like hundreds of emails with requests, which I had no idea, because when the talk got published, I was traveling. So I was not even on my phone. So that's how this talk happened. That's why I was embarrassed about it. So to me, it's even more special because the experience, the journey of it happening was bizarre.
It must be. And there are two things that I can see here. You did really well under that much of pressure. Well done on that. Secondly, you should be so grateful to your friends who actually tried to, make it work. And that's where your tribe comes in place, right? It's so important.
That's my life's work, man. That's why. Yeah, to me, the word friend is
Mm,
safer. Like we don't use the word friend in the right way in our
mm,
generation. And for us, like, look at the kind of generation that we're living in. What's the underlying in the US, by the way, 2017 or 2018, loneliness was declared as an epidemic.
yeah.
Right? We are living in a world where we don't have any geographical anchors. We have 5,000 friends on Facebook, but
Mm,
like no real connections.
so
And to
true.
me, and loneliness is the underlying root cause behind all modern age problems, like behind all addiction. Addiction meaning mental addiction. If you're addicted to anxious thoughts or depressive thoughts, that's an addiction.
Yeah.
Food addiction, obesity, relationship issues, like suicide rates. It's at the base of it is loneliness. And what we're doing is the world that we're living in today is we are further perpetuating the sense of separatedness, sense of difference. You have to outgrow everyone around you. You have to grow so fast that everybody else you're competing. Everybody, it further perpetuates the sense of separatedness. The world of self-help, in and of itself, is somehow not with the right intention, but it's kind of become, because it's coming from the country where it comes from, is very strong on rugged individuals, sense of individuality. It's the Western concept. It's an American philosophy, right? So what is further perpetuating is a sense of separatedness and loneliness in some shapes or forms, and the social media platform further accelerates it. And then what we do, personal development industry somehow creates more programs. Hey, you're feeling stressed or depressed? Here's a program to fix that. Oh, you're feeling obese? Here's a program to lose weight. What we're doing unconsciously is we are cutting ourselves and inventing band-aids without looking at the root cause, which
Mm,
is a sense of loneliness. And to me, like, literally, if every single person in this world has 3 to 5 what I call elevating friends, 3 to 5, no more, that you can laugh with, that can push each other to grow, that you can be vulnerable with, and you can be openly biased towards. If
mm.
every single person in this world has 3 to 5 elevating friends like that, I don't think we need a personal growth industry. There is no need, absolutely none, right? But that's the world that we live in today. That's the dilemma of our generation.
3 to 5, the number looks so small, but it is so big if you look into if you introspect and look around how many people you have in your life that you can really, really, really count upon.
Yeah.
It's
And
the number
count
is
upon,
one or two or zero.
yeah, count upon is one thing, right? There's a lot of people you can count upon, but the mutual pushing each other to grow
Oh yeah.
is even more rare,
Mm.
right? And then the people would ask, okay, great. Oftentimes when I share this message, people are like, okay, Gautam, how do I find these 3 to 5 friends? That's the first question, right? And the right way to look at it is how we grew up, and we had some financial troubles when I was growing up, and my dad went through this journey, and he had an older brother at the time. I was a kid,
Mm.
and he had an older brother who gave him his car when he was selling off all these things from in that very, very difficult phase. And I wanted to buy something, and the finances were tight. I was a kid, right? And I wanted to buy something, my dad couldn't get it. And I remember that my uncle gifted him a car. It was an older brother. So one day I was angry and I said, I wished I had an older brother like you. I'm very angry, like a child. And my dad said, don't wish to have an older brother like me, like him. Wish to be an older brother like him. And that's
Wow.
the same thing. It's if like, how do I find these 3 to 5 elevating friends?
Mm.
No,
Be
don't
one.
wish to find them. Be an elevating friend, and then you'll see. Because whatever energy you're in, your environment starts to find in harmony. If you elevate yourself, if you become the person that can inspire people who are connected to you, not inspire people on stage, but like just be inspirational, be inspired and inspiring to people that are close to you, that you play with, that you laugh with, that you spend most of your time with. If you become that, other people have to be.
Mm.
They must lift up to your level, right? And if they really don't want to, they will naturally drift away and they will go into a different category. They will still be someone that you care about, but they will not become your elevating friends. But every single person can find those 3 to 5 elevating friends. And this is not a new wisdom, what I'm sharing. This is so deep in our culture. In Buddhism, it's called the, what do you call that? Sangha. The
Okay.
three crown, they say the three crown jewels of Buddhism is Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. First two we'll talk about later is like trusting that there's liberation possible for you. Second is the practices that actually the path, the skillful means to get to enlightenment. And the last one they say without which enlightenment is not possible is Sangha, right? Is the community of enlightened beings, without which it is not possible. So it's not a new age concept that has been developed, right? But it's very very deep in our culture, and it's something I find that we're not paying as much attention to, and we can't put as much attention just by saying, "Hey, find friends." Like, you gotta find friends. You gotta
Yeah.
find people.
Thousands on Facebook.
Yeah, and the word doesn't hold any meaning anymore, any strong meaning. You ask your parents, Dad, who's your best friend? One name, best friend by definition, right? One
Mm.
top friend, one name. More, yes, one name. Now ask yourself, or like ask people around you. Oh yeah, he's my best friend from here. He's my best friend from there. It's best friend that best friend. He's my friend. He's a very good friend. And we how often do you talk? Yeah, once every year or so.
Yeah.
That's it's fine if it's working for you, right? I've deliberately made my worldview in a way that hey, I want to consciously design my life that I can be with these 3 to 5 to 10 people because life becomes way more fun. You do unspeakable wild things also with them.
Mm.
It's so fun to be openly biased towards someone. And even while I'm being on stage, I tell people I'm biased toward these 3 to 5 people, and it's a beautiful thing. Right? I love them so much that if they need something, I go out of my way to support it.
Yeah.
The only few people I can do that for, and it's a beautiful feeling to carry.
Mm.
And by doing that, you also inspire other people to explore that space. Like, who are these people that I'll be willing to go the distance and trust that they will do the same for me.
I think you've said a lot in in those last 4 minutes, and it's such a powerful thing. If you go and read, as you mentioned, in the personal development, self-help, you can read books, like plenty of books you can read right behind me. But until you have that connection with somebody, it's like, and I think that's one of the reason that the courses, the online courses that are coming up now, laying so much of emphasis on building a tribe around whatever they teach, so that they kind of create some sort of accountability among the people in that cohort. So, and it works. I mean, if you buy a course which is just go through it like Udemy course, versus something specialized which has the people who have taken part and how is their progress going, you tend to go to the second one.
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
it's really powerful, and I think that's what you do in Life Plugin. And I just, for the people who've not heard about you yet, mostly maybe in here in the UK, tell us a little bit more about Life Plugin. How do you implement what you've said just now?
Very good, actually. So I started Life Plugin, as I was mentioning, only for my friends.
Mm.
I was going to India. I literally went on a place where all my friends hang out, Facebook at the time, did a Facebook Live saying, hey, I'm coming to India and I miss having these conversations that I'm really passionate about. Who's interested? And my reputation is when my friends come together, we have a lot of fun and, we elevate each other in different shapes and forms. And we hadn't seen each other for about 5 years in a different context. So that was my intention. So I started Life Plugin with that. Only the people that I've had amazing times and connection with and I've lost touch with. Do you guys want to come together? Just, pay the expense, cover the cost. It was really, really cheap. And we had an amazing time for the first event that I did. And by the end of the event, I just said, okay, guys, thank you very much. It was really fun heading to the party, and see you when I see you. And then as the audience members started raising their hands saying, hey, Gautam, so how do we buy the ticket to the next event?
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? Yeah, how do we register, and how do we sign up for the next one? And I did the thing that, I should be fired for from Mind Valley. I was running a $20 million business marketing wise for Mind Valley at the time. And I did the thing any marketer should be shot. That's strict. Like, someone is willing to pay you money and you say, okay, no problem. Just give me your phone number. We'll contact you in phone number and email, and we'll send you the link later on so that you can purchase. Right? Because I didn't have a business. I didn't have a payment system. I didn't even know if I'm doing this. That's where it started. Right? And the reason why it's important for you to understand is because it's a very privileged position to I'm aware, fully aware. It's a very privileged position to start this business from that place. I didn't have to do it for the money. I loved my job with Mind Valley. I was like obsessively in love with everything that I was doing in Mind Valley, everything that I got to do, everything that I got to learn there. Right. So I just started as a passion project, and that's the essence of the organization that we wanted to be loyal to. That's what we never want to change. People that we want to hang out with, have fun with, right? Deliver massive breakthroughs and transformation, right? And do it in a way where it's wild, it's cool, it's super fun. That was the intention, right? Because designed for friends. And the more I did this, and my study, my research background started to go deeper into how can you create ecosystems that people can find those 3 to 5 elevating friends. This idea was getting simmered in my brain since 2018, right? So I was just exploring that more and more. So today, what Life Plugin does is that we create ecosystems that are designed to inspire friendships in the context of growth. Here's what it means. I say inspire friendships. You can't engineer it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another problem. We based on your profile, we'll look at the algorithm and then we'll tell you who are your most likely to be friends, and these are the ones that you should meet. There have been studies done where, when you're meeting someone and you already know their profile, that you have been matched based on the profile, the depth of connection is much lower than when you actually have to discover it through going through the hardships of conversations, hit and misses. The depth of connection is way deeper, but you can inspire friendships, right? There's an experience design element to it. There's NLP principles to it. You use multiple spaces. You take, in a very short period of time, make people meet in like 10 different places. The familiarity goes up. Create massively inspiring, awe-inspiring experiences, emotional experiences. The sense of connection in those experiences are much deeper, right? So we want to inspire friendships in the context of growth. The reason why I say context of growth is that, think about if you go to a business conference or a marketing conference, a good one, right? You meet someone there, had a great connection, right? 6 months later, you're traveling somewhere and you pass through the city. You see this guy sitting in the cafe, right? Hey, hi, how are you? Right? Immediately, it'll be very easy to talk about marketing,
Mm.
because that's the context in which the relationship was formed. Same thing for business. Meet someone at a business conference, 6 months later, you meet them. The context of, in which the relationship was formed was business, so it's easy to talk about business. So what we want to do is create massively awe-inspiring context of growth. And evidence suggests we are quite good at it. There's testimonials and breakthroughs, and not just this testimonials, but the people who say those testimonials is something I'm more proud of, right? So there's great value that people experience breakthroughs there. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is that we're building that context, but it's to inspire spaces so that everybody can find those 3 to 5 elevating friends. And when that happens, people start businesses together, which has happened. People have fallen in love at our event. People have proposed to each other spontaneously in an exercise that I was facilitating in October 2021.
Wow.
Right? People have written books together, right? So when you create a space like that, it's not just that, oh, their anxiety disappears. That's the byproduct that happens. It also, if you read in their testimonials, it's just a byproduct. But the way they're talking about this thing is with a sense of reverence. And to me, life plugin for me also, it's something much bigger. And we're all collectively co-creating this space, right? So it's a space to inspire friendships in the context of growth, and we do it in different scales. So we do a summit, which is like 300 people, 3 days, twice a year, where you live together for 3 days. And then we have like a private adventure, which is like a high-end mastermind, about 30 people, and it's you live together with me, right? Me and one or two more facilitators. We go deep into a process of life visioning. We do things that you cannot do in a larger group, things like deep trauma releasing work, or like plant medicine ceremonies, taking people on plant medicine journeys, right? It's dangerous to do it with like 300 people, right? So and those are things that are reserved specifically for a group of 30 maximum, and I actually get to interview all of them before they actually come, so that there's a real alignment there. The reason is not that, oh, I want to check if you're good enough for it or not. But the reason is because we live together. It's not something I just go on stage and then I can relax. We're together going through the struggles. I'm not teaching. We are going through this experience together for 4 days, right? So it's much more intimate and much more personal experience. And so we do this. And then we have some corporates who ask us to create the same thing for their tribes. Hey, can you create an experience for my tribe? So that they come together, they become the elevating 3 to 5 friends, they find them, and then they are more, as a result, happier at work, and then more productive at work, and by extension, increase their bottom line of retention and productivity, etc., etc. So there's certain set of companies that actually get this principle that your employee productivity and well-being are two sides of the same coin. So we do the whole Life Plugin Summit experience based on their particular goals. We create a transformational experience for their companies. So end up being like corporate retreats and stuff. So that's what it is so far.
Okay, that's quite a lot. uh, is it? First of all, the plant-based medicines. You mean ayahuasca or something similar?
Psilocybin. Ayahuasca is something that needs to be treated with a lot more respect,
Right.
I believe. And I will take permission from the mother in in October, in December actually, because I do think it's becoming a buzz and it's there, right? But it needs to be treated with a lot of respect and caution, right? Because it's very easy. Fully aware. It's very easy to make it sound really cool and powerful, especially if you're on stage. It's very easy to make it like pull people in with that idea, but that's why it needs to be, you know, like there should be a bit of respect and reverence towards it, because very very potent medicine. It's like literally like a gun. You can shoot the enemy in one night, or you can also derail your life for 10 years in one night. Right?
Okay.
So it's something. It's a bit more, also a bit more uncomfortable. Like I don't know if you've had that experience, but like it's very very uncomfortable on the body, on the emotions. Psilocybin is a gentle experience.
I see.
It's similar, like the kind of psilocybin that we use. It's similar, but it's not as heavy on the body. Right? You don't need to have ambulances waiting, running outside in case you need it. Right? Which with ayahuasca, you need to know a medical center nearby in case something goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
Physically, right? Or have those medical checkups before, so that there's no, you minimize the risk. It rarely happens, but you need to have that prepared. Like the places that I go to, they have an ambulance running, and the guys have never left the ambulance for 5 years. They've been hired to play Candy Crush in the ambulance, but they're there in case it's ever needed.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that what exactly you said for the people, so that there is no confusion. But you whatever you have just summarized, it's quite a lot of things going on in your life, and beside that, you also help people sorting their events, and you're also a speaker. I looked at your website. You're a keynote speaker for multiple subjects, so you do quite a lot. It looks like you're a very productive person. Now, coming to the point.
No.
No, you're not.
Well, I am, and I have to be. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to find out from you, how do you manage so many different?
Okay. I think I was laughing because having the impression that I'm very productive, it's actually true. I was laughing because if I give the impression that I'm very conscientious, that's something I have to put my consciousness towards, to be way more organized, structured, and producing more and more work. That's why I'm laughing. But I think we all have the potential to be extremely productive. It has two things, right? First, well, two or three. Let's see if there are two or three. The first one is the idea where, like, if we know what we need to be productive for very very clearly, we can be, right? And the reason why most people are, like, the ones who bring up this question are struggling with is, can you be clear? Why do you need to be productive? Right? Why is it that you're doing? The most basic thing, start with why, and not think about it in your thoughts. Actually put it down. Something different happens when you actually put it down. It clears your thought, right? Just thinking about the question, why is it important? So when you say, you go on my website and you see I'm doing so and so things, I'm doing keynote speaking, I travel here and there, and then we're doing podcast recording, I have some stuff happening in India for the events, and a bunch of things are happening. They're all connected to my personal why, right? My personal why and my core values, they're all connected. And I review that my personal why and my core values every single day. I actually look at them every single day. right? So, and then that's the thing that most people miss. Once you remind yourself every single day, this is why I do everything I do, right? I want to playfully people to live, enable people to live a more life filled with meaning, adventure, and joy, right? Or the very least, leave them feeling 5% better than they were before me. That's why I do every single thing that I do. And I have my core values: friendships, play, growth, be humble in your greatness, and relationships. These are the 5 core values I check every day. Every day I have to review them, right? And that's the first thing that goes in my mind, right? And then the rest are, once this becomes clear, we're not being forced to put some stuff out. Things are getting pulled out of us, right? Philosophically, in most days, if you're that inspired by saying, okay, that's my vision, that's my why, and that's what pulls me forward, it does most of the work for you. 1 second. Oops. Is my video back?
You froze for a second, but you're fine now.
Yeah, my family is calling. Let me turn that thing off. Right. What was I saying? Okay, the first thing is to be very clear about your why and review it. Write it down, put it in words that speak to you and inspire you, and look at it every single day. Now, the next thing is that, okay, what's the next thing I can do today that will make me get one step closer to it, right? These are your habits. We are creatures of habits, right? That's what we are. We love not making an effort. That's what we're designed to do. I don't want to make an effort. When being productive is an effort, we can't do it. How does it become effortless? By making it a habit, right? And so block certain time. I block first 90 minutes to 2 hours in a day, specifically to connect it to my why, to the most important work that I need to do, right? That's it. My first 3 hours, most important work of my day is normally done. That includes my personal well-being. There's a really good book that, if like the tactics and philosophy that expresses this perfectly is the book called The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I read that book 7 years ago, and that year it was the book that I made the most notes out of. And one of the things it says is that highly productive, highly effective people, they don't have perfect days. They don't believe in them. They have perfect start of the days. And that's the momentum that carries throughout the day. And those are the momentum of the days that carries through the week, and then through months and through years. And before you know it, you've created something significant, right? So what are those? And the most effective people, what the things that they do are 4 things: something for physical energy, something for emotional energy, something for spiritual energy, something for business or productive energy. 4 things, right? Spiritual energy, meditate, pray, what have you. Physical energy, exercise, even if it's for 15, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Sit in the sun without a t-shirt, reset your circadian rhythm. Make a healthy drink, the most basic structured water. Squeeze a lemon or a lime and then some Himalayan salt. Drink that, right? Something for physical energy. Then spend time, hug, kiss your loved ones, give love to someone that you care about. For emotional energy, your partner, your pet, your friend. And then the fourth question: what's the one thing that I need to do today, such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary?
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised I remember this statement verbatim. I read it 6 years ago. It's from the book. And that's the question to lead with. Every single day, I read my why, I do these 4 things, right? And then what's the one thing I need to do today to get a bit closer to this? Or is it in that direction? And once you find that, it only needs to be one thing. When you find that, your phone needs to be on flight until that time. You're not connected to the world, right? This is what they do in the morning. Like, morning routine is super, super powerful because it creates a very strong positive momentum. If you've owned the first 2 hours of the day, game over. For me, 3 hours, it's including the exercise, right? That's it. After that, there's so much positive momentum, positive confidence that is carrying you throughout the day, that everything else that comes afterwards feels effortless. This is the philosophy that, mindset trainers would say: eat the frog first, do the most difficult thing first. Why first? Also, when you think about productivity and if you have a massive task in front of you, pick the biggest chunk of it and put it in the morning. Reason is because your willpower is a physical source of energy. Like, with each yes and no decision, you deplete your willpower throughout the day. And it's at the highest in the morning. That's why things in the morning are effortless. easy to stick to the fact that I'm not going to have a cookie today in the morning and until the evening. Even if you make that decision, sometimes you reach for it because your willpower is low, right? So the timing of it is like works well for me, works well for most people. Some people like to be productive in the evening too, and then follow the same routine.
Mm.
Right? But it needs to be a routine. The reason why it needs to be a routine is that you put it in place, and then every time, whether you're tired, whether you're angry, whether you're hungry, or you didn't sleep last night, it's that time. Your brain automatically goes there. Okay, it's that time. Right? It's the time to do the same things. Right? And once that goes on automation, that is something, it pays you dividends decades from now. It's the same philosophy with the gym. In the beginning, nobody likes to go to the gym. It's hard, right? You don't like to go to the gym, and then you go out for a month, you stick to a routine, it starts to become easier, but you don't see much result in the mirror,
Mm.
right? You go for 2 months, 3 months, keep on lifting more heavier weights. What happens after 3 months? The
Becomes a
weight that
habit.
you were lifting in the first month, the third month, it's like you laugh at that weight, but you still don't see much change in the mirror. And then you continue going to the gym. The weights keep on getting heavier, right? Your habit has become that, oh, it's this time of the week, of the day, need to go to the gym. 1 year later or 2 years later, you someone takes a picture of you and someone sends you a picture from 2 years ago. Then you see that day and night difference. And by this time, this thing is on automation.
Yeah.
How long? For the rest of your life, right? So productivity you start building a routine, then it starts paying dividends for decades later, and it has a compounding effect, right? So it's more important to understand the the compounding effect, and that we are creatures of habits rather than what is the next hack that I can find to be productive at the next thing that I have,
Mm.
right? Why do you want to do it? Get very clear, and it better be something that can inspire you, right? And then realize that the compounding effect kicks in a few years down the line. It's way beyond comprehension. And
Yeah.
then just do the work.
Yeah, and I think it links with I don't know if you know about, there's a book called The Motivation Myth by Jeff Hayden. And what he talks about is that, the motivation is just, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for you to take an action. It's rather the other way around. So when you take an action and get a result, that result gives you motivation, right?
Mhm.
And when you are taking that action, like making that action as non-negotiable, then it becomes your habit, and you don't need motivation anymore to do it, as you rightly said about gym, right? If you're going every day, and then if you're not going for 2 days, you feel like, man, there's something missing here, right? So
Yeah,
in that case, you really don't need motivation to go to gym. It has become a habit. So
that's true.
yeah, I think.
One thing to add about motivation
Mm.
is that instead of saying it's not very useful, it actually can be very useful
Mhm.
only if the first time someone went to the gym is because they first felt motivated to go. I
Mhm.
wanted, and what happened there is you felt the motivation, and then you committed to doing something. Motivation needs to be followed by commitment, because
Action.
motivation is short lived,
Mm. Yeah.
right? It can come in, and when that does come in, if somebody gets motivated by this thought, this conversation that we're having, if it does motivate, the next thing that they need to do to actually transform, move from motivation to transformation,
Mm.
is by taking action, by committing to something. In the calendar, it's blocked, the alarm is set, and it's non-negotiable. If you can combine these two, motivation can be extremely powerful. And then you can start harnessing motivation at this different points in time, and it becomes inspiring, because once you develop this relationship, hey, I understand this is short lived. While it's there, what can I commit to? Right? And if you develop this personality, that, oh, motivation comes to me, and when it does, I put it in action. I never let it pass through without manifesting in its most beautiful potential. Like it manifesting in its most beautiful potential, what you need is a consistent long-term practice, right? Motivation can be useful, but if you only go to the gym every time you feel motivated, you'll be in the obesity group.
It's like if you keep reading a lot of self-help books and just keep reading and reading and reading,
Mhm.
finish hundreds of them in a year, it's useless until you take an action on what you have read, because they may motivate you for maybe when you finished reading them, but if you don't apply it, then it becomes like just another thing that you read and you will forget it anyway. because we do forget things, right?
Yeah,
Mm,
especially now more than ever.
now more than ever. And I think that's where your tribe concept is really helpful. I mean,
Mhm,
people do co-read. Like if I'm reading a book and I tell my friend, okay, we're reading this book, right? Or I tell my sister that, okay, let's read this book together.
mhm.
And we can kind of discuss what we read, and then we can say, okay, in your area, you can, use this thing, use it something that is not written in the book, something like that. Those kind of discussions, they will create those neural connections in your brain, and you will remember them longer because you kind of discussed what you just read, and it's a kind of taking action on them, isn't it?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
true. That's absolutely true.
So let's talk a little bit more about this thing, right? So we understood the why of why are we doing what we are doing in order to be more productive, and then we've created habits, like whatever we want to do, we've created as a habit so that we don't need more motivation to do it. How about dealing with the day to day? I'm just going into the practical,
Mhm.
practical life. And then everybody has distractions, right? We have more distractions now than ever before. What's your approach to deal with them? How do you come across, I don't know, there might be different sort of distractions coming from your phone or coming from somebody called you just now, your family members. That's, and I wouldn't call it a distraction, but you know what I mean, right? So how do you deal with different sort of distractions mentally? I mean, whatever you're thinking, there's nobody disturbing you, but your brain itself is just going in some sort of thought.
Mhm.
So any tools that you can give to my audience on that?
Okay. First is the phone needs to be on flight mode. When I start, I'm the least distracted in the morning. Right, my phone is still on flight mode, but I had just downloaded this WhatsApp widget. I didn't know it can just stop my call that is happening. So I said, "Oh shit, need to do that shit." Right, that's why my otherwise my nobody can reach me right now.
Yeah.
Right, so when we start, our willpower is at its highest.
Hmm.
And what's important to know, if you're not used to keeping your phone on flight mode, what's important to pay attention to is like you will act like you're an addict. You need a fix. You need something quickly,
Hmm.
and that will be difficult in the beginning, but that's an invitation to realize what's your current condition. Right, so how do you deal with distraction is by making an effort. Okay, when is the easiest for me to not be distracted? Find that out.
Hmm.
Morning, for most people. Now, you're the most creative, and use that creativity for yourself rather than going into the world of social media or like hundreds of notifications coming in all the time. Right, so I have a habit of putting my flight mode even when my phone on flight mode even when I'm in conversations. My phone is never out on the table. If I'm meeting someone even for lunch, it's on flight mode face down, just so that I don't carry the EMF in my pocket, just for that reason. Right, on flight mode.
Yeah.
Right, it's always as much we can reduce distraction. The reason is because the world that we live in today, we got to understand this. Only now, latest scientific papers are coming out in the world where we are so distracted that it's becoming detrimental to our mental well-being.
Hmm.
Like it's a chronic generational problem for us.
So
Right,
true.
and so how to address that is by things that don't sound sexy, right, but it is through mindfulness. Like mindfulness, the reason why mindful, if you look at the Google search trends, like how often the word is getting searched in the last less than 7 8 years ago, 7 8 years, the search trend has gone up by 400% for the word mindfulness. Why
Hmm.
is that? Because everything has become mindless. Right, if you think about, we eat mindlessly. How often do we eat with while watching something?
Yeah. Always.
Okay. There was a study done, like one of the teachers at Life Plugin actually cited this study. I was blown away. They actually they fed children fast food burgers. Half the children, they actually watched something on TV and then they ate the burger. The other one just ate the burger. The nutritional absorption, specifically the iron absorption, with the kids who ate just the burger without watching anything, was 90% higher.
Wow.
So that's the result of mindless eating. I'm also a victim of that. I'm not floating above anyone. It takes consciousness and
Hmm.
strength to actually not do that. But when we're doing it, the reason is because when our eyes are focused towards something, constant movement, it generates stress.
Right.
If you speak with Eric Edmeades, he would talk about the evolutionary biology. And our eyes are very intimately connected with signaling our biology to whether to produce stress or relax, engage our sympathetic nervous system or parasympathetic, right? So we're used to eating when there's no perceived threat or there's no need to pay high focus attention anywhere else.
Mm.
Because when we're doing that, the digestion is not important. When you're stressed in the savannas as hunter-gatherers for millions of years, if you're experiencing stress, your body is not investing energy in digesting or growing your hair or building your nails or your teeth maintenance, nothing, right? So it's mindless eating. What is it? We're consuming more information than ever before on social media, more content than ever before, but doesn't stick. It's passive consumption. So it's creating more ADD. We see through so many posts and we don't remember them,
Mm.
right? And then it's getting harder to pay attention to something which is, longer than 10, 15 minutes. Look at what behavioral platforms are driving. Hey, Instagram, first IGTV. I'm a marketer, right? So I'm also following the attention economy. 3 to 5 minutes. Before that was 10 to 15 minutes. Before that, YouTube, you could run like hour-long videos. Then came Instagram, Reels right now, 1 minute. TikTok, 30 seconds.
Keep doing this, you know.
So we are training our attention to be held for less and less time.
Mm.
And for us to process complex ideas or solve complex problems that we will face in our own lives, we need the ability to hold attention for the long term. And we can only train our attention as a skill. And mindfulness is that skill to train our attention. So when we talk about what is one way that I manage to navigate through distractions is through the school of mindfulness. I meditate minimum, like I try minimum 30 to 45 minutes a day. These days, around 40 minutes every day.
Yeah.
And it's boring. But same thing, like going to the gym. Years later, you see, oh my God, I'm lifting this weight right now. It was unimaginable years ago. But anything meaningful in life, it takes years of deliberate practice and love for the practice.
Yeah.
And there's a disassociation with the messaging there because we live in a world of instant gratification. Hey, lose 10 kilos in X days, become stress-free in 21 days, get this in X amount of time. We need fixes instantly, all of us. So we're constantly trained to think that we can find the solution to our problems in a very short period of time. And the faster, the better. The faster, the more sellable.
Mm.
But anything meaningful that stays long-term, a long-term relationship, a long-term love with your body, a long-term healthy growth of self-esteem, like a long-term strength of your attention, takes deliberate action every single day. And it's important to understand. And so the way I manage distraction is first thing, I make sure my phone is on flight mode until I do the top four things in my day. Right? Then it goes on off flight mode, and then I manage my notifications in a way that it distracts me the least. Right? But it's still, it is a flood of information that comes in. And then a mindful practice allows me to have a distance between an input, a stimulus, and a response. So I don't react in an old pattern behavior. I respond. Right? If there's a ton of notification coming in and I'm not trained, I react. How do I react? And that's not even good for if you're running a company. If you're always reactive, it's not useful. So it was just not useful for me. So having a daily mindful practice, specifically mindful, not meditation, not guided visualization, and speaking, and it's going against the counterculture that even I have been educated in with the Western American Personal Growth School. But I'm talking specifically mindfulness, specifically training the awareness.
Awareness. Yeah, that's key. I think if you've nailed that, the awareness bit, then setting up the notification and stuff, this is just kind of, it's very small. Once you're aware, you can find these kind of solutions. Yeah.
And the easiest way is like if you're getting distracted, if you're overwhelmed, take 6 breaths.
Say it again.
Six breaths in through the nose,
right.
Out through the nose, 90 seconds. The reactivity passes through. The physiological experience of any emotion that we have, it takes about 90 seconds, the physiological experience to pass through.
Okay.
without the fuel of the thought. There's Jill Boyle, neuroscientist, who wrote in this book called My Stroke of Insight.
Okay.
That's where it's from. And
Mhm.
so, every emotion you has a physical manifestation,
Yeah.
right? So when we have physical sensations, and then it feeds our thoughts. Oh, I'm scared. Think about something scary. What's the worst that could happen? Another thought. More fear, more emotions, more fearful thoughts, more emotions. So that's the cycle that we get stuck in. But if anytime we find ourselves in strong reactivity, 90 seconds, if one mindful practice you can take, focus on your breath for 90 seconds, 6 breaths, in through the nose, out through the nose. Before doing your podcast, before stepping on stage, before eating a meal, before meeting someone outside for lunch or dinner, can I take 6 breaths and notice the difference?
Mm.
Because there's a deep, wise self that we all have inside. Sometimes all these questions that we explore and we ask, we know the answers. Every person listening also knows the answers. How I know that is, sometimes you fight with someone that you love, you go to bed, right, angry, but next morning you wake up and then you're like, it's okay, it's not even a problem. It's already resolved in your head. In the Buddhist, like one of the Buddhist teacher, Ajahn Chah, would call it the wisdom of the one who knows.
Mm.
Right? There's a deep person within us that always knows. Some people call it our Buddha nature. It's always there, right? What can allow that to emerge rather than our animalistic self is to tap into the present moment. And it's not just enough to say, hey, just be present. Just the power of now is beautiful. Just try it. What are the skillful means to tap into the present moment?
Mm.
What's present right now? My breath. Can I stay with it? Try. Someone who's never tried staying with 6 breaths, try. What happens is after the second breath, you go one breath. I want to focus on the breath. Second breath, focus on the breath. Gone. My brain is gone somewhere else. And then, oh, no,
Got
5
it.
minutes later, this whole fantasy is lived through, and then you're back again. And that's not to be frustrated about.
Yeah.
What it does, it reveals the nature of our mind. And then questions like this become important that, hey, how do I manage distraction? Ah, try managing distractions when your eyes are closed, right? The more better you get there, the space will grow slowly, small. First you're expanding the window of tolerance, right? If it's like this right now, we're in a state of reactivity. You want to expand it slowly, slowly. Now, years later, it becomes this big space, right? But it takes years to get there. There's no shortcut. There's tranquilizers, there's
Mm.
medications, but they have their own side effects. They have their own problems. To get there as a conscious, wise being, to strive for there's only one way: deliberate practice every single day on automation.
Yeah. Practice with closed eyes. I think the breathing 90-second tool that you've just mentioned, it's really useful, and I can see that because I do practice meditation. I do transcendental meditation
Mhm.
for last 4 years or so, and it's just become a habit. And it's one of the easiest form of meditation. And whatever you can, if you want to see something manifesting, then you can visualize while you're meditating in alpha or okay, let's not go into that that area. That's a vast thing. But coming back, and we are actually running out of time now, but I really wanted to ask you a couple of more questions, Gautam, if that's okay.
Yeah, forgive me for if I'm taking longer to answer them.
That's fine. So yeah, let's do. So one thing I wanted to ask you, Gautam, is about your TED talk where you talk about, how the education systems should be transformed to adjust with the current way of living. And you have your life plugin, which does something similar. I wanted to know your views. What is your vision to how the education system should be? Will there be no schools, or will you be teaching something different in schools? What exactly? How do you see that when you close your eyes? That this is my the right kind of education that
Yeah.
every child should receive.
Well, for a child, I think that's a different school of thought already, because the biggest element of social intelligence development happens when there's a child who's in, primary, between the age of 0 to, let's say, 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're developing most of their social skills. They get developed there, right? And the education styles are different. So there's Montessori school of thought, or that works really, really well, but I don't know much about it. So I'm studying it, and parenting is maybe a few years ahead in my life. So a lot of my friends who are going into this space who are very, very conscious, they are finding, like, the results are stunning. They're very different alternative models of schooling, where they're sending their children, and you're just observing. Teacher's job is to just observe, not reward. The job of a teacher and a parent becomes like the most ultimate practice in mindfulness. So they draw something, and then you'll be like, oh, why did you draw that? Right? Instead of saying, very good or very nice. Don't reward a particular behavior because they'll stay in the same shapes and patterns, but you allow the creative genius to come out and flourish. And then you speak to their curiosity. You allow that to flourish, and you do that for the first 7 to 10 years. There are schools like that are emerging. They're small,
Mm-hmm.
because one student can only get one teacher can only take care of 6 students,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like multi-generational, but they stay together.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one model that I know. What I can tell you is the things that I want, that I envision for sure will be there, or that that speak to me right now. Let's say, who knows, 5 years from now, maybe my philosophy changes.
Mm-hmm.
Is the idea to be around the same people that you're growing up with, right? Have some certainty, because that sense of certainty gives you freedom to develop your social intelligence. You fight together, you play together. These are all ways of negotiating with each other, learning where are the social boundaries, pushing them, and then evolving through them, right? And that becomes easier if there's a sense of certainty with the people that you're surrounded with, right? And also for modern education, I find, like, for adult education, I think this is one aspect which is the most valuable, which is the modern narrative that we don't need a 6-figure university degree. I think there's some truth to it. It's not completely obsolete. We can't just say that's obsolete and I will reinvent the whole system. It needs to be the next stage in evolution, right? So there's value in creating highly competitive university environments who teach the same curriculum. Harvard will teach through the same books than a random university, right? But the quality of education, extraction of that knowledge by the students in Harvard and by the professors that are there, it will be very, very different as opposed to the other ecosystem, right? It also, and training for different competitive level examination to get into universities, it trains certain mental elements which are not very tangible, but perseverance, right? Things that are difficult and you don't want to do, how long can you stick with them to the point where you can create excellence? These are the skills that need to be trained, right? Your sense of social connections, experience of actually being in a university dormitory, spending 4 years with someone with a bunch of people. There's a lot of social intelligence that gets developed there, ability to lead, communicate, right? All these things, these are soft skills. They get developed there. And what we need to find is an ecosystem where there's some reasonable level of predictability that I'm going to meet similar people, so there is some long-term relationships that can be formed, because that speaks to the deep social animalistic part within ourselves. And then there's this aspect for adult education where I don't need just 6 options to choose from: doctor, engineering, arts, etc., etc. But I can choose the subjects that speak to me, because the content and the knowledge is available like it was never before. So we can literally build our own curriculum. We can pick and choose, and we can pick and choose who we want to do it with, learn with, and then have shared experiences with them. And this is the premise of the talk as well, the TED talk, right? You identify as an adult what needs to be part of my adult education. You build your own curriculum, right? And then you find people who are interested or who are learning the same things, right? And have some reasonably long time spent with them.
Yeah.
Right? So that becomes your tribe. And then with those people have shared experiences, deep immersive experiences, where it blows your mind. You have a sense of awe, excitement. You have some emotional experiences, you have some deep bonding experiences, right? And once you have this is a system that you can drive by yourself. You sit in the center of it. These are the things I want to learn this year. Okay, so these are the people that I would like to learn them with, or they happen to be the ones that I'm learning it with. And then you go to conferences, seminars, experiences, create book clubs with them, whatever you want to. Like the more inspiring or expansive it would be, the stronger the the feeling of reward while driving this educational ecosystem. And when you sit in the driving seat of it, what tends to happen is that it becomes exciting. You don't want it to end, and it's never ending, because our learning and growth should never end. Ideally, we should always be learning and growing different things in life, right? Different texts in life, right? But there always should be an element of learning and growth, and it should be done with, hopefully, a smaller tribe which is very consistent. These are your elevating friends, and then some peripheral people within the tribe who share the same goals, values, and desires and pain points with you, and then you have shared experiences with them. And this is what I just described. It's not also new, even though I shared in the TEDx talk. The religions had figured out, like, thousands of years ago. That's what they do. Their shared experiences are the festivals. The tribe is the tribe that believes in the same story, same mythical story, have the same values. And religions were the original school of philosophy. The original personal growth schools were religions, right? So, and there was a curriculum, and there's a set curriculum there, but this was the same model that has, united millions of people. Is the most successful educational institute in the world, different forms, right? So the principles, the fundamentals will always remain the same, right? The curriculum will change, the technology that delivers it will change, but it needs to deliver these three things, I believe.
Yeah.
Your self-education, that you're driven and inspired to learn, and certain people that you can go through those learning experiences with and have shared deep experiences with these people. So your self-education, your tribe, and deep immersive experiences.
Yeah, I think, and with Life Plugin and with Mind Valley, I mean, I've been in A-Fest and other gatherings of Mind Valley, and I can see that happening. You know, when you connect with the people who think and act and behave like yourself, then you kind of mirroring with them, and then the things that you were achieving in a year may take now 5 months or 4 months, whatever. So,
I love Mind Valley, man.
mm,
It was life-changing experience for me. I spent 4.5 years with them, and it
mm,
really changed my life. I can spend the rest of my life expressing gratitude for them. Won't be enough.
cool, cool. Okay, Gautam, I will ask my last question now, which I'll ask all my guests, which is what, according to you, are the top 3 skills that one needs but schools are not teaching?
Top 3 skills that schools are not teaching. Interesting. Hard to tell. Part of my brain goes, there's like, I should list 100. The other part goes, which one is it? And so, no, I think the thing that would make a big difference in everyone who's in any stage of learning,
Mhm.
especially in schools, is that if playing, the importance of playing was stronger. So if people played more, and if we taught everyone to, skillfully be in love with each other,
Mm,
kind to each other. That's a skill that is not taught. And to tell the truth. Right? These are all three philosophical things, but not by teaching it. They can only be lived. Like if so, I hard to say how to teach it. If these values are there, if there's more play, if there's more kindness and love towards each other, right? And if truth telling is encouraged and celebrated, I
mm.
think we create better people.
Wow.
And
I think the first and third one, nobody has ever said this answer. And I've asked this question to over 65 people so far.
Mhm.
Nobody told me about, telling the truth. And I really agree with you that, yeah, this is one skill that should be taught.
Yeah, well,
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. So, Gautam, I think I can talk to you for another hour, man. It's so interesting conversation, and there are a lot of good things that you're kind of bringing to my attention. But only in the interest of time, we'll have to conclude this interview. I'm really, really grateful that you came and gave us your time. So thank you very much, Gautam.
thank you, sir. I hope this was valuable. I really enjoyed this conversation too. I learned certain things that were dormant in my head that came out here. So quite
Good,
happy about that too.
good.
Thank
Thank you. And guys, if you've got some value from this video, then do consider subscribing. I will see you again with an amazing guest. Until then, you take care and keep learning.